Hey everybody, it's Amer. Thanks for joining today. Today is the first episode of a brand new series that we are doing with the Amer Institute for Community Education and a program that they have called Voices from Palestine, which highlights the voices of young people in Gaza and throughout Palestine. So I'm really excited. This will be a series that we start to publish now once a week, hearing their voices from our homeland, Palestine. The first topic we're going to talk about this week is how Palestinian youth are dealing with and connecting to the Black Lives Matter movement here in America. We've all heard about the murder of George Floyd. It's made its way around the world. In fact, in Palestine, we even see that some of his artwork has been shared, and artwork of him has even been shared on the apartheid wall in the West Bank. And so young people and people of all ages in Palestine are connecting with the Black Lives Matter movement now. And we've even seen demonstrations in Ramallah, Jerusalem, Haifa, Jaffa, and all over Palestine. We're going to have 6 young guests with us today from Gaza who are going to be joining us. So before we get started, I want to bring on the 2 team leaders of Voices from Palestine from the Amer Institute for Community Education. That's Hatem Saadallah and Muhammad Murtaja. So Hatem, tell me exactly, very quickly, what is Voices from Palestine?
Voices from Palestine is an idea that came from Amer Institute for Community Education. It started in 2007. When it began, it started as an idea to give a platform for, let's say, teenager, young people to practice their English, do initiative, etc. And then the idea developed after like 5 years and started gaining audience outside of Palestine, doing projects, contests, and the idea has been reshaped for a while until it began to be an idea that it's like a platform for young people to express their voices, especially to the outer world, because we're doing that in English.
Now, Muhammad, how many young people throughout Palestine are part of Voices from Palestine?
Now I think about 20 people from Gaza. So in the past we had like you can say about, if you can collect all of the people who were in the past in the team, you're talking about maybe 100 people. But nowadays we have about 20 people.
And what age ranges do they come in?
15 until 24 years old.
Wow. Okay. And these are young people who have sort of many different interests and are just sort of letting the world know kind of what they're doing, what their life is like in Palestine.
Yeah. So one of the amazing things about Voices from Palestine that we're not in a team that only interest is about literature or science. We have people who are interested in programming, literature, science, technology, writing, reading. And Voices from Palestine is an idea where we build up a team and prepare them to be an effective member of the society and deliver a message to the outside, how the world, how it's going on in Gaza, how it's going on in Palestine, and give a true story other than the media's one.
So as we all heard on the news, there has been young people on the ground in Palestine connecting with the Black Lives Matter movement, the murder of George Floyd, giving different messages on social media. The first person I want to bring on is Taghreed Sayyid Ahmed. Hi, Taghreed. How are you?
Hi, Amer. I'm fine.
What have you seen among the youth in Gaza and how they have been connecting to Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd murder?
Well, actually, the whole George Floyd murder and this stuff, actually, it's heartbreaking, just killing that innocent person with no reason, just because he was suspected, This is like a cruel thing to happen. And we as Gazans or even Palestinians, we've seen this murder as like, we've seen our lives and our freedoms as being killed and suffocated by an occupation for many years. And now we're just like seeing it in front of our eyes. It's really hurting. It's really, causes pain. So we are as youth and even different than youth, in Gaza and Palestine, we are completely against any discrimination, against any occupation that kills the innocent people.
You deal with young people a lot, through the Amer Institute and through some of the work that you do. Are you seeing that they are talking about this in a way that connects to their experiences growing up in Gaza and Palestine?
Well, actually, there is a similarity. There must be a one way or a connection between them. You know, maybe it's not very explicit, but to be discriminated because of something, maybe your skin color, or maybe your origin, just like you're Arab or not Arab. This discrimination is happening around the world, is occurring right now, and we as Palestinians and even Gazans, we touched it. So yes, we as youth and as Gazans, we see that maybe similarity in this George Floyd murdering and our situation.
Thanks, Taghreed. Now I want to go to another young person from Gaza, Omar Rabi. Hi, Omar.
Hello, Amer.
Hi. So you are 23 as well. Okay, so tell me, you've spent, obviously your teenage years and now some of your adult years in Gaza. How are you connecting personally with what you're seeing happening in America with the demonstrations and the protests and the Black Lives Matter movement?
Of course, what I'm feeling from the experience of being someone here living in Palestine, and in this conflict, you feel like you need your voice to be heard. You need someone to hear your voice, and you're not demanding anything astonishing out of the ordinary. You're demanding basic rights right here. You're not demanding anything out of the ordinary. So what I saw in George Floyd's murder, of course, really titled the injustice around that I'm seeing everywhere, and of course including the racism against African Americans. And to be honest, the movement of people around America protesting, demanding their rights and talking about what they've been through, being so courageous, it opened my eye, because in this life that I'm living right now, you feel like you need your voice to be heard. It's never going to change if you're just sitting around doing nothing, just hoping it would change. But they went on. In some cases, they risked their lives, and they went on to make a change. And we're seeing it step by step on the news that things are changing little by little. And that, to me, felt like now that leads to a story that we here in Palestine need to do. We need our voices to be heard, people to hear us, whether it was any kind of things, protests, talking about the people here, this opportunity that we're giving right now with you, Amer, and so on.
All right, thank you, Omar. And so far we've talked to some people in their 20s, but actually Voices from Palestine brings people much younger than that. And so now I want to bring on Ragad Hussein. She's a 17-year-old from Gaza. Hi, Ragad, how are you?
Hi, thank you.
What have you felt when you watch the video of the murder of George Floyd and the people protesting in the streets in America?
I tried so much to make hashtags for them, to tell people on Twitter and Instagram that Black Lives Matter and so on, to make them end, to cut this racism there. I'm trying so hard on social media and so on to know about this more. Yeah.
Now, but I mean, as a Palestinian, do you feel sort of a connection to African Americans in the sense of like police brutality and police violence? Is this, when you see George Floyd, does it remind you of things you see in Gaza?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Here in Gaza or in Palestine, actually, yeah, this situation, we are suffering from this so much.
And are you having any conversations with other young people in Gaza, with your friends? Like when you sit with your friends now, I know it's been Corona, so it's hard to see people, but I know Palestinians, we don't always follow the rules. So sometimes we still go out and see our friends.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
When you go out and talk to your friends in the last couple weeks, is George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, is this a conversation that's happening among them?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. Because we have black ones here and we have white ones here, but here in Gaza we tried so much to to make know more about this Black Lives Matter and so on, and we talked about them so much to not make this in Gaza actually, to learn about them from them.
Okay, so when I said that we're talking to young people, I meant it. And now the youngest of our group today is going to join us. She's 15 years old, all the way from Gaza. Hala Abu Nahle. Hi, Hala, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine. Thanks.
So 15 years old. I mean, what are you doing? 15 years old, you're talking about these kinds of things, but this is normal in Palestine, huh?
Yes, it is, and thoughts are the most important thing. So we don't care about the age.
As a 15-year-old and you hang out with other young people in Gaza, is this topic of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter something that comes up in your conversations?
Of course, George Floyd murder is something that becomes international, and everyone is talking about. So globalization and social media make a huge, crucial role in this thing. So everyone in the world, I guess, knows about this murder and this miserable situation that is in America, and about the protests. Everything is connected now.
Yeah, I mean, Corona has also taught us that we're all connected somehow or another. How do you make the connection, or do you make a connection between your own experiences or the things you see around you and what you saw happen to George Floyd in that video?
Of course, I make a connection between them because it's discrimination, whether it's about the color or whether it's about the origin. It's all about discrimination. So here in Gaza, we face discrimination about our origin, or whether you are Arab or not. When Israeli people just treat the Israeli people in a different way, they don't treat they don't have equality between the Palestinians and the Israeli people. So here's a discrimination too. We can talk about only the discrimination between the Black people and white. We can talk about discrimination in another way that depends on the origin and the story of our history.
So Mohammed, as one of the team leaders of Voices from Palestine, how does American politics, I always have this theory, okay, that young Palestinians know more about American politics than young Americans, because, young Americans can sort of remove themselves and just live an everyday life that's disconnected from politics, but Palestinians, we can't. And so how much do you find that young Palestinians are always connected and paying attention to what's going on in America?
From my own experience, so I'm truly connected to the American politics because I went to study in the United States and I've been there before. And honestly, wherever you go in Gaza, everything is political. Like, honestly, we wake up for political news. Before we go to sleep, we go to check the websites. And, a few days ago, I was talking with one of my American colleagues, and I was talking with him about the Como people, the governor and the man of the CNN. And he told me something. He told me, Mohammed, I think most of the Americans do not know those people, but you do. And that's really surprising for me. So, yeah, when I just remember that. About George Floyd, if I can tell you a story. So a few days ago, I was going to buy falafel. So I live in a neighborhood called the Tufah neighborhood. It's near the Shaja'iyya neighborhood. And to be honest, I don't think the people in Gaza are even interested in this neighborhood. Let's say a big number of them, especially who work 12 hours a day only to get a good wage at the end of the month. So I don't think they care about the internet and all of those things. However, what I was surprised so I was buying falafel and he asked me, Mohammed, you went to the United States. Why did they do that for that black man? I told him I have no idea. I don't know. And he told me that's even here in Gaza, even here in my store, I was really sad and mad about what happened because it's so outrageous and it's disgraceful what happened. So I think even the people of Gaza who are not particularly connected to the world have heard about this story.
So I want to have a quick conversation with Raghad Taghreed and Hala, just as young women from Gaza. What do you see as your role in sort of these struggles for justice? Is it different than a man's role? Is it something unique? How do you view yourselves as you're trying to talk to people about struggles for social justice and the Black Lives Matter movement?
I see as anybody's role as a human being is equal to the other, and equal and maybe the same. especially in fighting the discrimination and this stuff, because there is no specific role for a woman or a specific role for the men, to act naturally with people as we are all the same, to be all the same, or like to have this feeling that we're just people. We are all a creature on this earth, to live our life just as smoothly without any that man-made, discrimination, because this is all differences. We just made it by ourselves, we the human beings.
Hala, I have a theory, okay? My theory is this, that women grow up faster than men. They're usually more mature than men, smarter than
And why
men,
is that?
just, everything better usually than men. Do you see that the young women in Gaza around your age and a little bit older are getting more involved in social justice or politics than the young men, or is it about the same?
It doesn't depend whether you are a man or a woman, or whether you are young or old. It depends on the way that you can make a difference. For example, if you're interested in arts, you can draw something that embodies the ideas that you have.
So I think, I don't know, like here in Gaza, I feel it like women are more fighter for human rights now, like in Gaza, that they are even defending for themselves rights, their rights. The message for them is to make a free and safe, society. So everybody who works, or like when he or she starts to be a volunteer, he starts to follow this message, like a safe and a clear society.
Ragad, is it difficult for a young woman in Gaza to make her voice heard when it comes to these sort of social justice things like Black Lives Matter or something else? Or do you find that the society allows it, or is there difficulty? What has been your experience with that?
It's not easy, actually. There are many girls really like to say that Black Lives Matter and so on, but they can't. And as a member in Tamer, we had the voice to say that Black Lives Matter and so on.
So Hatem, tell me, I mean, I know Gaza has started to open back up from Corona. People are going back outside again in the last few weeks. You've been down on the streets in Gaza City, all throughout. What have been some of the conversations you're having with people about the George Floyd murder and the Black Lives Matter movement?
I want to be very honest with you, Amer. People are shocked because the United States has been an example of having a diverse acceptance between itself, and it has this reputation of being a melting pot. I think George Floyd has exposed the United States in a way that makes people think. They might think that, okay, maybe we're not that bad, and maybe the United States is not that awesome. There are things that we can improve. And from that point, people start to identify with George Floyd. We've been exposed to injustice. We've been exposed to discrimination based on race and ethnicity, basically. And we're happy to work with the Black community to solve the injustices that they face, and so we can learn from the experience and probably apply it here in Palestine.
Is there a Black community in Gaza?
There is some Black people. It's not like that a community. Gaza is a very small place.
Okay, so do you see any sort of racism against the Black Palestinians in Gaza from other Palestinians?
I can say that there is absolutely some sort of discrimination against these Black people, but it's not talked about as it is in the United States, and this is probably something we should pay more attention to. I happen to see people holding good positions of power, or being Black in Gaza, but it's not that representative of the Black community here in Gaza. I think we need to connect more with them. I think we as Palestinians, as people from Gaza, we need to hear more voices from them.
Omar, what has been your sort of view as a Palestinian growing up in Gaza? You said you grew up in Iraq and some other places too, but how do you feel particularly about the Black Lives Matter movement?
I feel, of course, it's a great way to stop any kind of injustice that they've been facing throughout their whole lives. The whole basic idea of racism has been going on for many, many years. It's not just about the slave auctions that used to happen long times ago in history. It's about how people here discriminate between each other just based on the color that they were born with. It's never an excuse for anyone to feel like they're less or not as good as anyone else because I have a different skin color. Of course, it's never like that. And many people here are discriminating between, it goes along the, let's say, the titles of race, origin, religion, and all of that. But right now, what I'm seeing is people right now are saying all lives matter, people saying, what about us? And here I'd like to, of course, add my opinion here that people can actually express their freely express their opinions and talk about any kind of discrimination that's been going on. But I don't think you can compare any kind of injustice to the other. Each one has its own backstory, different stories, different ways, and many people have suffered throughout the years in order to try their best to change how they live and the injustice they've been living with throughout their lives. So of course, let's all stand together in this Black Lives Matter movement, and then everything else can fall into place. Any other people that are feeling that they've been facing any kind of discrimination, injustice, racism can speak up, speak louder. And right now in America, most of them are all African Americans who are going out there on the street protesting, risking their lives in some cases to try and change that. So we can't just take all that and say, well, all lives matter, don't they? Of course they do matter, but you haven't been facing what they've been facing. So let them speak up, defend them as hard as you can, and then you can actually talk about your problems.
Taghreed, we all saw a couple weeks ago the murder of Eyad Al-Hallaq in Jerusalem, a 32-year-old autistic, mentally challenged man who was shot 10 times by Israeli police.
Yeah.
They thought he had a gun, and of course he didn't have a gun. And all of it happening, almost right after the George Floyd murder, and things started happening here. What did you see in Palestine of people making that very specific connection?
Both of them, George and Eyad, were killed because they were suspected. Like, they are not even very close to be sure that they are, whether Eyad having a gun or George is really like conducted with that false check, that or fake check. So they were both suspected, and they both were killed or murdered. And yeah, Eyad was like directly killed after George with some days, and now we as Palestinians seen it as like even a more discrimination thing. Eyad, he's not a Jewish, so he was murdered as long as he was suspected. George was murdered as long as he was suspected, since he has a different color of skin. These two obvious, of injustice, unfairness, I would like to say like cruelty of these murderers who are just like, whether they have the power or I don't know what to call it, to be violent towards the others.
I think, we Palestinians connect with Black Americans in a way that we know what it feels like when the person pointing the gun at you thinks that you're not a human being.
Yeah.
We've seen
Right.
that. I didn't.
We feel it. We feel
life.
directly without being at the same place. Now, maybe a white Palestinian, he's completely with George Floyd, because he feel it that he is like killed, or even that like having the intention just to kill him because he's different.
I mean, have we heard in this case of Eyad Al-Hallaq, are the police who killed him, murdered him, has there been any action taken against them yet?
No news. As much as I hear, I don't hear any jail or any like trial that he went to. No, this is all unfortunate, because like murderers just get away with their actions and not being accounted for what they did. They're killing more Palestinians, or they're killing more African Black people or African American people, and and maybe like not just the case in Gaza or Palestine or the US. I mean, this injustice and this cruelty is all over the world.
I want to ask everybody, what were the emotions that you felt when you heard about the murder of Eyad Hallaq?
Tired.
It's completely sadness.
Grief.
And angry, kind of angry.
Frustration and disappointment, because nothing changed.
I heard the different emotions you said when you heard about the death of Eyad Hallaq, his murder. And I'm sure you felt those same things when you heard about the murder of George Floyd. But there was one emotion that none of you said. And that emotion is shock, surprised. Because is it true that when you heard about Eyad Hallaq, none of you were surprised?
No.
Why? Why weren't you surprised?
It's normal. It's kind of normal.
Isn't that crazy, Ragad, that it's normal?
It is. The problem is that we normalize that because, like, yeah.
I think, unfortunately, those things are being normal to us, because we are seeing it from while to while. I even can remember one of my relatives, Yasser Murtaja, who was killed just for being a journalist. When I saw Eyad Al-Hallaq, I was mad, but it was unfortunately, and I think, and I hope this would change one day. I felt that it's just too normal.
When I heard about Eyad Al-Hallaq, I said they killed again, like another one is killed, another innocent person is killed again. Yes, surprise and shock is there, but it's still like when I said again, like, isn't that enough?
Me, when I heard the news, I was like, seriously? So someone with special needs who didn't even have a gun, you suspected that he had a gun, and you killed him. And it like, how does that feel? Like, what can you say for yourself? And unfortunately, I've heard that news came out that they said sorry for killing Eyad Al-Hallaq.
Right.
And to me, that actually increased the idea of shock. You say sorry for killing a person, so ending a life basically is worth the word sorry.
So I was hearing George Floyd's brother saying that is like my brother value about $20. He was killed because of $20. And if we can compare it, so our value was a single word. Sorry.
Your question was why weren't we shocked? Why we didn't ask the question why this happened? And probably because we asked it a million times before. We spent all our lives asking this question. I remember the first time I asked this question was when I was in 3rd grade, and I just finished Arabic language final exam and I got back home. I was 8 years old at the time, and then we started hearing bombardment all around Gaza Strip, and it was intimidating. Some of the glasses in our house fell down, and we didn't know what happened. And that was the first time I asked the question. And at that time, my mother opened the TV, and there was like corpses of thousands of people dying, like people who are like either dead or already like in the process of dying. And it was shocking. My mother didn't want us to see that, and she asked me I didn't love drawing, but she asked me to do some drawing because she didn't want me or my sister to see this. And I remember because I have a twin sister and we're like fighting a lot. My twin sister was crying and she said that if we die, I forgive you for everything bad that I have, like you've done to me, and you should do this. I didn't know what to say. I said to her that I forgive her as well.
I don't think 8-year-olds should be having that kind of conversation.
It's kind of weird, but we do.
Is there any final thoughts anyone wants to share with us?
The Black Lives Matter movement, that it's been great, of course, the idea of marching and protesting and going and trying to make everyone around the world, not just in the US, not just those that are in higher power places, everyone should just learn a lesson from this. It's amazing. It's so inspiring.
We want to make our voice louder and louder. We want the whole world to just support this huge thing. Let's stand together to face this thing and to stop this thing happening.
I don't know why we as human beings should look at ourselves in a different way because of our color or our gender. I think this is immoral. I think this is something that really outrageous for me every time I think about. But what we can learn from Black Lives Matter protests in the United States, that when you are discriminated, you should talk. Keep talking, and I'm sure that one day your voice will be heard, your message will be delivered.
Let us all together put hand in hand and try to make that planet a home for everybody. And for the demonstrations and for the Black Lives Matter, keep going, and may justice be in this world.
This is my message to everyone protesting in the United States. We as Palestinians from Gaza, we see you, we hear you, we are feeling you, and we know that Black Lives Matter, and we're doing that unconditionally because your lives matter for every human being with alive conscience on earth.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. I want to thank all the guests we had with us: Muhammad Murtaja, Hatem Saadallah, Ragad Hussein, Omar Al-Rabi, Hala Abu Nahli, and Taghreed Sayyid Ahmed. Bye guys, see you later. Thanks all for joining us. And I'm Amer Zahir. I will see you all again very soon on our next episode here as we talk voices from Palestine. See you soon. Now, you guys have been in Gaza for most of your lives. Can someone explain to me the obsession with shatta, hot sauce? You put shatta on falafel, on shawarma.
I'm not a big fan of shatta, so I'm already out of here.
Oh, so you are like, oh, so people, you are ashamed to your family in Gaza.
No.
Taghreed, do you put shatta on everything?
No, me too. I don't like
I do.
shatta everywhere and this stuff.
I know a friend from Gaza here. He put shatta on shatta. Like somebody gave him shatta and the shatta wasn't good enough. And so he brought his own shatta from his bag and he put shatta on shatta. What is wrong with you people?